Welcome to a little bonus episode of You Make It Happen. This one's going to be as short as I can possibly make it because y'all know I tend to whinge on a bit sometimes, especially about topics I'm passionate about, which are usually pretty much everything I'm talking about in the podcast. So before I get started on this one, I just want to say thank you to the fans, to the followers. If you haven't already, please follow the podcast. I'm Missy the Traveler on YouTube, Missy.Traveler on TikTok, Missy the Traveler on Instagram. I mean, basically look up a combination of Missy and Traveler and you'll probably find me. And I will have some limited availability starting in March to take on new clients as a life coach who specializes in anxious attachment recovery. I also specialize in depression, anxiety, general anxiety disorder, ADHD, ADD, all the things that you hear me talk about in the podcast. We get into more depth and more detail and more useful one-on-one coaching that is specifically tailored to you, the client, if you're interested. Send me a DM. So again, thank you. I couldn't be more grateful for all of the support. So let's get into this little bonus episode. Central nervous system regulation. I didn't even know what this was for the longest time. And I'm going to just start out with a little quote that it's not a quote. It's my summary of some information I gathered in a recent episode of another amazing podcaster. A telltale sign of childhood trauma is trying to get difficult people to love us. That is the dead giveaway for childhood trauma. Trying to get difficult people to love you. And I can't tell you how much of my adult life and probably my childhood, but definitely my childhood, I spent trying to get difficult people to love me. My mother and my father, namely, but so many other people as well. All right. So let's get into nervous system regulation. When we get dysregulated, it's hard for us to do anything worthwhile. It's not like we can't do things. Like, people function in dysregulation all the time. Some people function better than others. And there are people that make a living functioning in dysregulation. But it doesn't mean it's healthy, and it doesn't mean it's the right thing. So how do we regulate? Regulating the nervous system, it makes life so much easier. And when we're not regulated, when we're in sympathetic, we're in fight or flight. So when I say sympathetic, I mean this is the state that your nervous system is in. And there can be 3 different states. There's dorsal, there's sympathetic, and then there's ventral. Ventral is the safe, online, rational, reasonable part of your brain is working. So your prefrontal cortex and everything is responding. Your logic brain is online. If your prefrontal cortex is fully formed, that is, which is approximately the age of 25. Dorsal is the lowest of any nervous system state. And it basically means collapse, shutdown, disconnection. This is basically freeze, when your body and brain are just shut down. Not even fight or flight, but way into disassociation, meaning you're not even connected to your body anymore. This is how people don't feel pain or don't feel present in their body for traumas during the trauma or when it happens, if that makes sense. If a trauma has ever happened to you and you felt like you had an out-of-body experience where you were floating above your body, it's because your central nervous system was in a dorsal and or disassociated state. It's collapsed. It's shut down. It is basically your brain perceiving the threat, and it doesn't even have to be a verifiable or deadly threat for your brain to go into dorsal shutdown. And it's your brain trying to protect your body, protect itself, like the blood flow goes to your heart, your core, your whole body, and chemistry changes in that moment. And you have no access, none whatsoever, to your prefrontal cortex, which is the rational, reasonable, thinking, logical part of your brain. You cannot access that in dorsal. And it's difficult to get it back online in sympathetic. But I'm going to give you guys some tips for how to do that. I'm going to get into those tips momentarily because they are super helpful and they've helped me on numerous occasions. So your central nervous system regulates your heart rate, your breathing, all of the above. Like, it regulates so many things. You're going to have moments of difficulty and challenging life experiences. This is just part of being human. But if you can regulate your nervous system better, that means you can handle life's difficulties better. You can get your rational, reasonable thinking part of the brain back online faster, and it'll give you more choice. It's that 1 second or half a second or sometimes even 5 second gap between, wow, that really upset me, or wow, that was really triggering, or what just that horrible thing just happened, or I just witnessed this and what do I want to do about it? Or do I want to do something about it? Or what should I do about it? And I know we're not supposed to be shoulding. We're shoulding all over the place. It is that helps give you more control over your responses when you can recognize when you're in sympathetic. So that's one of the tips, is just starting to notice, oh, I'm not thinking clearly. I am not in the rational, reasonable prefrontal cortex part of my brain. Just noticing when your prefrontal cortex is offline is one of the ways to get it back online. And I know I've talked about this in other episodes, but it is very much worth repeating. So your muscle memory, meaning the repetition of things that you do so that your brain knows, oh, this is, a familiar physical habit, like getting up in the morning and going to the bathroom, or getting up in the morning and getting a cup of coffee, whatever your morning routine is. Let's say you do the same thing every morning. It takes 300 times of muscle memory doing something physically to reprogram your brain. 300, right? That's nearly a year of doing it every day. And even more importantly, it takes 3,000 repetitions to build a new neural pathway. That's not months. That's not a year. That's years of work, years of building new neural pathways. 3,000. That's a lot. That is a hell of a lot. So how do we get back into this ventral state? Ventral is the safe, online, rational thinking part of the nervous system. So let's take a little illustration. Imagine you have a dog or a cat, and they're happily sitting on your lap, purring for the cat, or curled up next to you, or safely sleeping across your legs, or whatever for the dog, depending on the size of the dog, breed, disposition, of course. They are in their ventral system because they feel safe with you. They are sleeping on you or next to you. They feel safe. The vagal is named for the vagus nerve, which travels up the back of the brainstem, and it comes in pairs. We have a left vagus nerve and a right vagus nerve for each side of the brain. 80% of that information travels from the vagus nerve from the body to the brain. Only 20% goes from the brain to the body. Yeah. So here's yet another illustration of how our bodies feel things and remember things, and our bodies are more intelligent than our brains. 80% of that information is traveling from your body. Your brain's only contributing 20%. In case you thought it was a mistake the first time I said it. So to give you another piece of fun factual information, the dorsal state in our central nervous system was online about 500 million years ago, the sympathetic state about 400 million years ago, and the ventral vagal state has only been online for the last 200 million years. So as far as a nervous system state goes, it's still pretty new. It's still pretty new in the evolution of humankind and mankind. So I like humankind better. That's less sexist. Let's go with that. So it's not your imagination if it seems harder to get into the ventral vagal state, which is your prefrontal cortex coming back online with rational and reasonable and logical thought, because that's the newest of our central nervous systems coming online. Millions, hundreds of millions of years, in fact, that the ventral vagal system has not been online. So let's expand on sympathetic a little bit more, and then I'll get into how to get back into your ventral state, meaning how to get your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, back online. So sympathetic, this is the system that activates fight or flight. This is the scared for your life and responding to chaos system. The dorsal system is just one down, meaning complete shutdown. Just trying to stay alive, just trying to keep your body alive. So think about a time that you received a quick burst of adrenaline, like a semi-truck comes out of nowhere at a red stoplight and you're going the opposite direction. You narrowly avoid a collision and narrowly avoid death. So your body releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Can also be released on a regular basis if you work in a toxic environment or live with one or whatever. Anyway, you can have an experience that puts you into the sympathetic state very quickly. And if you're in this long term, it is bad for your body and it's easy to miss. I was in it for so long, y'all, so long. And I had no idea. I had no idea that I was in fight or flight like all the time because I didn't know what I didn't know. And as a kid, that's what I was taught. Be vigilant, be on the lookout. Where's the next threat? Not am I going to lose my life, but it felt like that as a kid because the consequences of getting a bad grade or getting screamed at by my dad or getting emotionally dismissed by my mom were real, and they feel like life or death to a child. So I was in it constantly. And then even in my 20s, I was in it a lot. Anyway, so let's do a little test. What's your view of the world? Try a statement. Use an I statement. I look at my life as, if you follow the next blank with you're happy, you're in the ventral vagal system. If you follow the next word with a blank that says bleak, not fun, not exciting, miserable, scary, maybe you're in sympathetic. And if you follow the blank with a fill in of awful, horrible, doomed, a dark place, I don't want to live, ominous, then you might be in dorsal shutdown. And you're still alive and you can still think a little bit. You just can't think real well in dorsal shutdown. So this is real, and you don't deserve to be in that state all the time. So I talked a little bit about it before, what can get you out of this state. And the very first step is simply noticing when you're not in your rational, reasonable thinking part of the brain. When you're not in ventral, when you're not using your prefrontal cortex, just noticing that. Oh, hey, I'm upset. Oh, hey, I'm in fight or flight. Or, oh, hey, that was scary. Or, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And it's not just a matter of not knowing what to do in a logical scenario. It's not knowing how to handle your emotions, how to handle yourself. A lot of people are in sympathetic or dorsal a lot of the time, and you wouldn't even know it unless you're paying very close attention or you know them really well. Because maybe they spend all their time in these unsafe central nervous system states. So, again, getting the rational, reasonable thinking part of the brain back online. First step, noticing. Notice when you're in sympathetic. Notice when you're in dorsal. Notice when you're shutting down or when you're in fight or flight. Getting angry, like maybe disproportionately angry, that may be in sympathetic, or you may just be angry. Anger is a valid emotion, and it's a healthy one when you express it in a healthy manner. So we've talked about this in other episodes, but what are some healthy ways to express anger? I'm not going to go into that fully in this episode, but like punch a couch cushion, not around your animals or other people. Express your frustration or upset. Do it in a healthy manner where you can safely express your anger. Don't take it out on other people. Don't work your stuff out on other people.